All right, so dive in with me this time. You've sent us quite a collection, academic papers, sci-fi excerpts, even a LinkedIn profile.
Wow, that is quite the mix.
Yeah, so it looks like we're going to go deep into quantum mechanics, AI, and maybe even touch on consciousness a little bit.
It's really interesting how these fields, which we often think about as being separate, are starting to kind of converge.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can kind of pull out the threads for you and see what the key takeaways are from all of this.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with some actual science.
Yeah.
You've got this paper, Artificial Intelligence and Quantum Teleportation, which dives into how we might actually be able to teleport things using quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
This isn't just like Star Trek fantasy anymore.
It's amazing how far we've come.
Right.
You know, scientists have actually managed to teleport quantum states,
Wow.
but the process is incredibly complex and it's very error-prone.
So the paper describes these qubits as being super fragile, like even the slightest disturbance can mess up the teleportation. So how do they propose to fix that?
Well, that's where the AI comes in.
Okay.
The paper lays out a framework, even has diagrams for how to use AI to monitor and adjust these qubits in real time.
Oh, wow.
So imagine algorithms that are constantly working to keep these quantum bits stable and entangled even over huge distances.
So entanglement is key here, right? It's like this invisible thread that connects these particles no matter how far apart they are.
Precisely.
It's like spooky action at a distance.
It is spooky action at a distance that Einstein was very uncomfortable with.
I bet.
But to make this work on a practical level, we need to be able to build these quantum devices that are incredibly precise and they can be scaled up.
Right.
And that's where nanotechnology comes in.
Hold on, nanotech. Like those tiny little robots I keep hearing about?
Yeah.
What do those have to do with teleportation?
Think of it this way. To manipulate and control these very fragile qubits, we need tools that can operate at the atomic level.
Oh, okay.
The paper specifically mentions quantum dots and carbon nanotubes. These are incredibly tiny structures with unique quantum properties that could be used to build these devices.
Okay, so we're talking about like engineering on a scale that's almost unimaginable.
It is mind-boggling.
But what's the payoff here? Why should we care about quantum teleportation?
Well, imagine a world where you can transmit information instantaneously, not just across the room, but potentially across galaxies.
Oh, wow.
The implications for communication, for computing, even for our understanding of the universe, are just massive.
Yeah, so we're talking about revolutionizing the way we interact with the world and maybe even the cosmos.
Absolutely.
But let's shift gears a little bit. Your sources also include some pretty interesting material on consciousness, specifically a piece called Human Portals.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where the conversation takes a turn for the more speculative.
Yeah. Human Portals really dives into this idea that consciousness itself could be a quantum phenomenon,
Okay.
that it might be linked to this idea of entanglement.
Okay, I'm already feeling a little out of my depth here. What does entanglement have to do with consciousness?
Well, the author of Human Portals proposes that our consciousness might be entangled with another realm or dimension that's not physical.
Okay.
So imagine like a twin particle of your consciousness existing somewhere else, linked to your physical self through this invisible quantum thread.
So like a mirror image of our consciousness existing in another reality.
It's a mind-bending concept.
It is.
But the author suggests that this entanglement might actually help to explain the hard problem of consciousness,
Okay.
which is, how do our subjective experiences arise from physical matter?
Right, the age-old question of like, how does our brain actually create the feeling of being us?
Exactly.
But how does Human Portals connect this to entanglement?
Well, the paper suggests that these transitional states like birth, sleep, even death, might actually act as portals where this entanglement becomes much more pronounced. So imagine these states as moments when the veil between our physical reality and this other dimension becomes very thin.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. Are we saying that things like near-death experiences could be glimpses into this other realm where our entangled consciousness is hanging out?
That's a fascinating proposition.
It is.
And the author even draws parallels to the Hopi Indian cosmology, which also has this idea of interconnected consciousness that exists beyond the physical world.
So we're venturing into some pretty uncharted territory here.
We are.
But before we get too lost in the quantum weeds, let's jump to those sci-fi excerpts you mentioned.
Okay.
We've got Pretty Badass Aisha and New Prologue 2010 to 2084. What are those about?
So these excerpts, they paint a very different picture of the future,
Okay.
one that's dominated by blockchain technology.
Okay.
They depict a world where digital currencies, smart contracts, These decentralized networks have completely reshaped society.
So we're talking about like a future where crypto is king.
Exactly. But
Right.
it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
These stories depict a pretty dystopian society where you have a handful of very powerful crypto barons that control the flow of information and wealth, while the masses are struggling to survive in this digitally controlled world.
That sounds a bit like some of those cyberpunk novels I've read where the technology creates this huge divide between the haves and the have-nots.
The similarities are definitely there.
Yeah.
But in these stories, there's a glimmer of hope.
Good.
It comes in the form of Aisha, this really skilled hacker who leads a rebellion against this oppressive system.
Okay, so classic tale of rebellion against the big, powerful system.
Yeah.
But how does this tie back to the quantum mechanics and consciousness stuff we were talking about earlier?
It's a fascinating question. Remember the author of that paper we talked about, artificial intelligence and quantum teleportation? Palmer Afori?
Yeah, the one who laid out that whole framework for using AI to make teleportation actually happen.
Oh, get this. Palmer Afori also happens to be the author of the Crypto Wars series, which pretty badass Aisha is a part of.
Wait, seriously? The same person who's writing about cutting-edge quantum tech is writing dystopian sci-fi about blockchain gone wrong.
It's true.
That's wild.
And if you look at his LinkedIn profile, you see this really interesting blend of, scientific research and creative storytelling.
So what are we supposed to make of this? Is he trying to tell us something about where all of this could be headed?
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that scientific progress doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
It's influenced by social trends, economic forces, even our imaginations.
Okay, so we've gone from the very real science of quantum teleportation to these kind of speculative ideas about consciousness and then a fictional world shaped by blockchain technology.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. Where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, I think maybe the most important takeaway is that these seemingly disparate threads, quantum mechanics, AI consciousness, and blockchain, they're all intertwined in ways that we're only just beginning to understand. It's fascinating to think about how those dystopian scenarios, like in those sci-fi excerpts, might actually play out in the real world.
Right.
We often see technology presented as this solution to all of our problems.
Yeah.
But these stories kind of remind us that, there can be unintended consequences.
Right. It's like every invention casts a shadow.
Yeah.
Like in Pretty Badass Aisha, the initial promise of this decentralized, equitable system gets totally corrupted, and it leads to even more power concentrated in the hands of those crypto barons.
And then there's Aisha herself, this skilled hacker fighting for freedom in this world that's dominated by technology.
Right.
It's a classic trope.
Yeah.
But it raises some really important questions.
Yeah.
Like, who controls this technology? Who benefits from it? It feels like this constant struggle to balance innovation with its potential impact on society.
Yeah, for sure. And what's so interesting is that Palmer Ofori, the scientist who's working on quantum teleportation, is the same guy writing these cautionary tales about blockchain gone wrong.
It's really strange.
It's as if he's saying, hey, this tech is incredible, but let's not be naive about how it could be used.
It's like he's bridging these two worlds, science and storytelling.
Yeah.
And he's offering this really unique perspective.
That's totally.
It's like he has one foot in the laboratory and the other foot in the realm of imagination.
I like that.
Exploring both the possibilities and the potential pitfalls.
Okay, so we've got AI, nanotech, quantum teleportation, and maybe even consciousness all swirling around together.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. But what about this idea of transitional states acting as portals to another realm?
Okay.
That sounds straight out of a science fiction movie.
Well, it is a pretty fringe idea.
Yeah.
But human portals make some really interesting connections.
Right.
Birth, sleep, death. These are all states where our conscious experience changes really drastically. So could there be a quantum explanation for these transitions?
The paper even connects this to near-death experiencers.
Right.
Those stories people tell about seeing a white light or feeling this sense of peace and connection.
Yeah.
Could that be a glimpse into another dimension, like a sort of quantum leap of consciousness?
It's highly speculative.
Yeah.
But the idea that consciousness could be transferred or transformed through quantum processes is a very radical departure from our traditional views.
For sure.
It makes us rethink our assumptions about who we are, the boundaries of reality, even the meaning of existence.
Yeah, and you think about some historical figures like the mathematician Ramanujan, who claimed to receive these groundbreaking insights through dreams.
Right.
Makes you wonder if they were tapping into something beyond our current understanding.
Human portals suggests that they might have been accessing this non-local information, this realm of knowledge that transcends space and time.
So what if the scientific tools that we're developing now, like quantum computers and advanced AI, could help us explore these questions in completely new ways?
That's a great point.
Could we bridge the gap between these subjective experiences and objective scientific measurements?
It's possible that these tools will allow us to study consciousness and its connection to the quantum world in ways we can't even imagine right now.
Right.
Maybe we're on the verge of a scientific revolution that will completely change our understanding of who we are, what it means to be human.
Oh, that's deep. So if we're talking about consciousness potentially existing beyond the physical body, does that mean we could one day upload our minds into computers or even achieve immortality?
That's a question that science fiction has been exploring for decades.
Right.
And while mind uploading is still very speculative, the rapid advancements in AI and neuroscience are making these questions increasingly relevant.
It's true.
We might not have all the answers, but the very fact that we're asking these questions shows how far we've come and how much further we might still go.
It reminds us that science isn't just about collecting facts.
It's not.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Absolutely.
And exploring the mysteries of the universe and ourselves. One thing that really stuck with me from that human portals piece was that idea about the mathematical structure of the universe. Like there's this hidden code underlying everything.
Like a symphony of frequencies.
This symphony of frequencies.
And perhaps consciousness is somehow tuned into that symphony.
Right.
The author draws parallels to music.
Okay.
Suggesting that different states of consciousness might be like different harmonies or rhythms within a larger composition.
Oh, so like our waking consciousness is one melody. Our dream state is another. And maybe there are even more states that we haven't even discovered yet.
That we haven't even tuned into yet.
Right.
It's a beautiful analogy. And it connects back to, Tesla's fascination with those specific numbers, 3, 6, and 9. He saw those as representing fundamental principles of energy and vibration.
Right.
Could they also be clues to understanding the frequencies of consciousness?
And then there's Ramanujan, the mathematician, who claimed that his insights came from divine inspiration in dreams.
Right.
What if he was tapping into that non-local information field, like that universal library of knowledge beyond the physical world?
It's a tantalizing possibility.
It is.
If consciousness can transcend the limitations of space and time, then perhaps there are ways to access information that isn't bound by those constraints.
So like our minds become receivers tuning into a cosmic broadcast.
Exactly.
Of knowledge and insight.
It's a beautiful image.
Yeah, it is. But how could we even begin to explore those possibilities?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
It's like we're talking about a whole new kind of science.
Yeah.
One that bridges the gap between the physical and the non-physical.
Perhaps that's where we're headed. Yeah. The author of Human Portals suggests that a deeper understanding of quantum mechanics might be the key to unlocking these mysteries.
So quantum physics isn't just about explaining how subatomic particles behave.
Right.
It's about understanding the fundamental nature of reality, including consciousness.
Exactly.
Quantum mechanics is full of paradoxes and counterintuitive concepts.
It is.
But it's also the most successful scientific theory we have.
The most successful theory we have by far.
Right. And if consciousness itself is a quantum phenomenon, then maybe those paradoxes hold the key to unlocking its secrets.
That's a possibility.
Okay, so we've got this potential paradigm shift happening, a new way of understanding consciousness and its relationship to the universe. But what does that mean for us practically? How can we integrate these ideas into our daily lives?
Well, I think for one thing, it invites us to cultivate a sense of wonder and awe about the world around us and the mysteries within ourselves. It reminds us that there's so much we don't know.
Right.
And that's okay.
So embrace the mystery. Be open to new possibilities. Don't be afraid to ask big questions.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, it encourages us to cultivate a sense of interconnectedness.
Okay.
If consciousness is truly a quantum phenomenon, then we're all part of this vast, entangled web of being.
Like we're all connected not just to each other, but to something much larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And that realization can be both humbling and empowering.
Right.
It reminds us that our actions have ripple effects.
That
we're all part of something greater. And that we have the potential to make a positive impact on the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the science of quantum teleportation to the mysteries of consciousness and the potential of nanotechnology.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been a mind-bending journey.
It has.
But I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I think that's true.
Right.
But as we've seen, even a glimpse into these realms can really challenge our assumptions.
Yeah.
Spark our imaginations and inspire us to explore the unknown.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about, isn't it?
I think so.
Expanding our understanding of the universe and ourselves.
Yeah.
And recognizing that the journey of discovery is never truly over.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep an open mind.
Right.
Who knows what wonders await us just beyond the horizon?
I guess we'll just have to keep diving deep to find out.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.